Hi, welcome to Up and About with Peekskill United. We're here at the Lincoln Depot Museum for this show. And why are we doing that? Well, our interesting show begins with a segment on a night at the museum. Our second segment, we're going to do what's happening in White Plains. Our third segment will be roundtable on issues around town in Peekskill. Then we're going to do a new feature that is new to this show. We're going to focus on a small business in downtown Peekskill. Our man on the street, Bruce Bellom, will interview the new business owner and find out what it's like to do business in Peekskill. And we're going to close our show with the 4th of July. But first of all, I'd like to introduce our special guest, the president of the Lincoln Depot Museum, John Testa.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and thank you for offering to highlight the museum. It's very important for the city of Peekskill, this museum. And we spend a lot of time down here. Bruce was down here with a camera crew a couple weeks ago. I always look forward to an opportunity to discuss the importance of the museum and really what it's done for Peekskill. So thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Bob Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Joe Torres.
Hi, I'm John Testa.
Hi, I'm Louis Segal.
I'm Bruce Bellom, man on the street.
Our first segment, A Night at the Museum. Obviously, the president of Lincoln Depot Museum is here, John Testa, and he's going to lead us into the segment. Tell us about it, John.
Well, again, thank you for having me. This is a very important part of the city of Peekskill. For historic reasons, we preserve an original railroad depot that was from many, many years ago, where President Lincoln stopped in 1861 on his way to his inauguration. We were able to obtain this back in 2003 when I was mayor, and thanks to Governor Pataki, we got a number of grants to restore the building, create the museum, build a new building outside, which is almost done, the visitor center. So we're moving every year. It's our 4th year in operation as a museum, and it's just a wonderful destination place for people coming up on the train. We're getting more and more visitors each and every year. It's bringing in cultural tourism and historic tourism to Peekskill and the whole Hudson Valley. So we're just happy to be part of it. And I was really happy the other day when Bruce came, as I said, with some camera people to go through the museum. We have a lot of exhibits here. There's a lot of connection between New York, Peekskill, and Lincoln, which is really the focus of this museum, the indispensable relationship of New York and this area to President Lincoln and his re-election. There's Chauncey Depew, there's William Nelson, there's Henry Ward Beecher. There's so many connections here. We have loans from different areas, from the Peekskill Field Library, from the Peekskill Museum. We have things on loan here, really important stuff. So I don't know what you're going to show in terms of, we did a lot, so I'm sure you can't show it all, but please come down and visit every weekend between now and November, right around the weekend before Thanksgiving, every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4. We'd love to see you come down.
Let's go to the tape.
Welcome to the Lincoln Depot Museum in Peekskill, New York. This is a unique museum not found anywhere else in New York State, and it's the inspiration for this museum came from 1861 when President-elect Abraham Lincoln was traveling from his home in Springfield, Illinois, making stops along the way. And in Westchester County, this was the only stop he made in Peekskill. And he made that stop because a good friend of his, William Nelson, who was a lawyer in town, also was his contemporary in Congress when Lincoln spent 2 years in Congress in the 1850s. And then as time moved on, he became elected president, and on his way, he stopped here and spoke to the citizens, not only of Peekskill, but as far away as Dutchess County and Connecticut came here to hear him speak. What we can do is go around and show you some of the main exhibits and some of the important artifacts that we have here. This section of the museum has a series of exhibits related to one image. That's the image you'll see on that brooch, which we have an original copy of in our case here. which was a campaign pin. It's a Matthew Brady, who was a famous photographer at the time. Took a picture of Lincoln when he came here for that Cooper Union speech I mentioned before. And that image became the image that was used by many manufacturers and newspapers and magazines, the image that was used of Lincoln. And if you notice, it's a clean-shaven Lincoln before he grew his beard. So this was a very early photo of him in the campaign. There's also a big part of Peekskill at the time. There was a movement called the Wide Awakes. The Wide Awakes throughout the country were Lincoln supporters. And in Peekskill, there was a Wide Awakes, the Highlands Wide Awakes, and that was run by someone known as Chauncey Depew and James Houston, two lawyers who graduated recently from Yale at the time, very young, who were big supporters of Lincoln. And here we have on loan, we have a number of items on loan from another museum at Peekskill called the Peekskill Museum on Union Avenue. And this is on loan from them, a uniform. It's a Zouave uniform, actually from a person who lived in Peekskill, and John Hughes is his name. John was a member of the 9th New York Zouaves in the Civil War. This case in this area of our museum is dedicated to those veterans who were part of the war effort. Peekskill area, we had a number of cavalry units that were enlisted by our youngsters here in this area. Abraham Lincoln, unfortunately, he was assassinated and had to be brought home to Springfield, Illinois. And because he was, one of the stops was here on his inauguration ride, it was only proper that they had the train stop with his casket on board in Peekskill. The only place in Westchester that train, the funeral train, stopped was here in Peekskill. I hope I gave you a little understanding of what the Lincoln Depot Museum is all about, why we are here, the importance of this museum. We hope you will come visit us. We're open right through the season from April to the end of November, every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, excluding holidays, from 1 to 4. But throughout the year, we have special events here. We have guest lectures. We have prominent historians come here. And we plan more and more events as time goes on, especially once the full property is open, once the new building is completed and the grounds are ready. We're going to have reenactments and other types of concerts and other events here. So we hope you keep coming back. So we want to continue to build. We want to continue to make our museum better. We're always bringing in new exhibits and new artifacts. So there's always a reason to come back. But please let us know if you want to be involved and come down and say hello. Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed that, because let me tell you, when I was down here, John, I thought I knew a lot about Lincoln, and I really didn't until you started to narrate each and every exhibit here. And one of the things I found so very interesting was the pictures of the people in 1860s being looked at now in 2018. I found that to be fascinating, let my imagination run wild somewhat, and then I got to see the different types of literature that was here and the guns that they used in the Civil War. I mean, it's educational beyond belief, and you know, you just do an excellent job, and people should actually grab you when they're here and get you to talk to them about it.
Well, thank you. You know, the advent of photography at this period of time was very important for studying history now. Obviously, you go back to the Revolutionary War, which is also a big part of Peekskill. No photographs at that time, so the photography made a big difference. And there's always something new that people find when they come back here. If you're a Peekskill resident, you can come here for free. It's part of our 40-year lease with the city is to have Peekskill residents come here free. If you're from out of town, it's $8 for adults, or if your children under 12 is free, but otherwise, for veterans and seniors, it's $5. So it's very affordable. It's like walking into a New York City museum, as was always said to us. We have events during the course of the year. We have guest lectures, which a lot of people come to. If you go to our website at lincolndepotmuseum.org, You can sign up for our newsletters. You can see what we're doing. So we're trying to keep it fresh. And with the new building coming, as I said before, we're going to be able to expand to outside events. We're going to have reenactments and concerts. We're working with local businesses. We're very interested in this project moving to the next level. So we're really going places, and hopefully people will come and see us.
So you've got enough material to expand this place.
Oh yeah, we have much more material. We have one of our board members, Brian Kaplan, is a very well-noted and known extensive collector of Civil War and Lincoln memorabilia. Some of this is my collection as well as others on loan. There's plenty of things. There's always more to have. We want to expand on Peekskill Military Academy in the new building. So we're going to do that as well as some other. We're going to also have a connection of Lincoln's image over the course of time and how that was used for advertising and just about everything over the course of time.
Wow.
Through World War I, World War II, and even to present day. There are bottles in his image. There are labels, everything. You know, we have obviously currency,
Right.
but so he's never out of our consciousness, and we want to show that in a cultural way over time.
That's important.
This is a great thing. It's a great stop off if you want to spend time at the riverfront. Bring the kids down. Go to the museum. Go next door to the dessert place. Take a walk along the river.
That's
it's a
great,
great thing. And you know that it's free. Bring the kids.
Yeah,
Kids
we get
love this.
groups coming from local, from everywhere throughout the Hudson Valley, New York City, the train. They come up, they plan. They actually plan. We had a group not too long ago of about 8 or 10, probably in their 30-year area, came up for the day, spent the day in the morning here, went to lunch across at the Peekskill Brewery, went over to the riverfront, got some ice cream at the Hudson Creamery over
That's
there.
a walkway. You know.
Went up to downtown. They walked up Central Avenue to downtown. That happens a lot.
That's
And
really
the businesses here really appreciate us. We appreciate them. That's why we're working all together here to make this area a really destination place and bring people to Peekskill.
Yeah, we can just roll right off the train.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right
I got
there.
to say, John, you and the people that work to build this museum have done a great job.
Thank
A really great job. I had a fun time down here, and I learned an awful lot that I brought back to other people and talked to them about. So it was just really good.
So like you say, you think you know about Lincoln until you get here. And you learn so much more just by looking at the pictures. And then you see how he incorporates him being president and here being in Peekskill. The history is a rich history. You see names like Beecher, Nelson. Now, I'm walking the streets and I see the names of the streets and it doesn't really hit me.
Yeah.
I come in here and I'm like, wow.
Well, you don't really
That
realize
would make sense.
how much history is in the city. It's unbelievable if you really look into the history of the city alone, but also what's happened here. You know, when Lincoln's stopping here on his way down to D.C., and you know, it's a lot of things that we don't know that the younger generation doesn't know. And it's nice that you can get off a train, come here and see a beautiful place that has a lot of history to it, and you go out, either go to a few restaurants here, walk out down the river to the walkway. I mean, it's got a lot of things to do. It's a great place to visit. But what I wanted to ask you is,
Sure.
what's the timeline on the other building? When do you guys plan on?
Well, it's moved along quite a bit. It's supposed to be done. We're sitting here almost mid-July, and it's supposed to be completed sometime by the end of the summer or early fall, hopefully, and then we will be able to start the transition of incorporating that building into the museum operations. We have a lot to do. We're going to have a little gift shop in there and other things, so it's going to take time for us to get that up and running, but we have the building and we can use it for other things. We're going to have the grounds because this is a historic site. Our lease is for the whole site, not just the buildings. And so, as I said before, we plan on outdoor events throughout the year and just give more and more reason for people to keep coming back here. So we're very excited about that. And
I know there was a lot of headaches when we.
yeah, well, there's always this. Yeah, there's been some roadblocks here and there.
Sure,
But we've
it's been a long road. So
hopefully gotten past them all.
I remember being on the council and all the
Yeah.
headaches that we went through with
This
builders.
was done 8 years ago.
Should have been.
Yeah.
The outside building probably should have been completed 8 years ago.
Sure.
The grants for this whole project were obtained in 2006, and over a course of time, The foundation was formed because of the funding for this building was done. The building that you see being completed in the front here is the grants came through the city, so the city had to facilitate that part of the grant structure. So we're getting there, and like I said, hopefully we're past any difficulties and roadblocks. We can move forward, because really a museum is where kids should be coming.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a former teacher as well, and a history teacher. The last thing kids want is to sit and read from a history book. But when you can see the actual items, you can see the connections in real life, and you can see how important it is. I think that's where the learning, as you guys already pointed out. Yeah.
Bring it home.
Some of the stuff here is your own private collection.
Some of it's from my collection over the years, but most of it is from Brian Kaplan, and some of it's from on loan. But I have a few things in here. Yeah.
It's a great place.
Very.
Yeah,
It really
it's
is a
it's,
great
uh,
place.
You've got to
it's an
come
unbelievable
over,
job, yeah.
and you won't feel it, you won't believe it until you step in it.
Yep.
And you know, you really see how beautiful this
It
place
really
is,
is.
and the richness of history that it has.
The Lincoln
Come on
Depot
down.
Museum.
Yes.
Come on down. Let us know what you think.
Great place to visit.
Thank you.
Our second segment tonight, what's happening in White Plains? In addition to being president of the Lincoln Depot Museum, John Testa also happens to be our county legislator for Peekskill, Cortlandt, and the town of Yorktown, and he's in his 5th term as county legislator. So John, can you fill us in on what's going on down in White Plains?
So I'll put on my other hat.
For sure.
Well, White Plains is a county seat. Obviously, that's where the county office building is. It's an interesting year so far. We have a new county executive, George Latimer, great guy who I've known for a long time. We work well together. I believe in bipartisanship, and so does he. That makes it easy. So we tackle, and we're continuing to tackle some of the big county-wide issues, such as the airport and playland, and obviously the county budget will be interesting as we go into the fall. So those kinds of things that we do as a global Westchester County issues. But as a county legislator in District 1, as you mentioned, I represent Peekskill, Cortlandt, and Yorktown. And my goal has always been to make sure that everybody remembers that there is life above Route 287, and there is a Northern Westchester, and we deserve some of the things that Mount Vernon and White Plains and Yonkers gets. And I've been able to do that, thank God, over the time, because we do have quite a bit of infrastructure owned by the county up here. And over the course of a number of years, I've been able to finally get focus on some of the roads, almost 5 miles worth of road repaving in a few years. All of Main Street, that basically is from Conklin Avenue to right all the way through to the Route 9 is county owned. We got that done a few years back. And then Route 202, basically from the Beach Shopping Center where the animal hospital is, all the way to the monument.
I remember.
Yes.
Is
Thank you,
county road.
Thank you,
And we
John.
got that whole thing done. Even though Con Ed came in and kind of screwed it up,
But
which is
you know,
what Con Ed does
it's
very
funny, John, a
well.
lot of people
Yeah.
don't recognize that the county has its, the county seats down in White Plains, but there's a lot going on,
Yeah.
like the roads that you just mentioned. People don't
Yeah,
recognize that.
John,
They don't realize
How
that.
did you do that? What was the procedure to get those roads repaved?
Well-
I think it's got to be kind of difficult.
Well, first of all, you have to have a commitment from at least a majority of your colleagues, and I work very well with my colleagues, because we all recognize that each district has unique needs, so we do that for each other, and a county executive who is going to allow that to happen, and we had that, so I was able to do that. Don't forget, we also have a county sewage plant in Peekskill, which is, we've had millions of dollars of upgrades on that. And I recently was able to have my colleagues join me last year, and it should happen soon. All of Washington Street, which happens to be a county road, is going to be redone.
Oh, nice.
So, within the next year or so.
Yeah.
So there's always something, to look out for, and I just believe in making sure we get our fair share up here. And it's a safety issue as well. We make sure everything is ADA compliant as we upgrade these roads, which is important. So,
So
yeah.
would you say the Americans with Disabilities?
Exactly.
So that's the sidewalks, we have
The drop.
an entrance
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
Little
for a
ramp.
wheelchair.
Yes.
That's important.
And curbing,
Yes.
because a lot of these roads have not had curbing done in many, many years. Even in some rare areas, we even do sidewalks, which was done on 202 in a couple areas. The sidewalks were done for safety reasons. So, yeah, that's what we try
So
to do.
this goes into your planning process.
Oh yeah, it goes through the whole planning process. It takes a few years from the beginning of the concept to the actually happening, because you have to have committee hearings and you have to have design, you have to have engineers involved, because it's not just coming in and putting down blacktop.
Right.
It's coming in and designing. All the manholes have to be raised.
Right.
All
Yeah.
the
And all
catch,
that goes out to bid, right?
yeah, all the catch basins have to be evaluated. Some may need to be replaced and raised. The curbing needs to. All that has to be done and surveyed. It takes time.
So it's very extensive.
Well, my hat's off to you on that. That's a big project.
There's a lot of interface too, and the common council meeting, I believe it was last night, the committee of the whole, we're filming on July 10th, and it's the July 9 meeting. Brent Van Zandt was down at a meeting in White Plains with the county to coordinate that and to inform him of what's going on, because it's a county project, but it's in Peekskill, so you really want your DPW people involved.
Because here's what we try to do. We try to minimize the cost as much as we can. As I said, we did all of North Division Street through downtown. Within only a few months, Con Ed decided they're going to come in and put in their gas lines. Now, why they didn't tell the county, they knew the county was going to do that. Instead of telling the county ahead of time, maybe you should hold off 6 months to a year and let us do that first, which would have been the logical thing.
Sure.
They didn't, so they ripped up brand new,
pavement,
ruts into brand new pavement. The city had its own projects going on South Street and crosswalk. So what happens is that Con Edison is paying for the repaving, but the city has their own projects. So if you combine the two and you work together, or in this case in three, with Con Ed, the city, and the county, you can do all the paving at once and the cost comes down.
Sure.
And that's why sometimes people complain, well, why didn't they pave it right away?
Yeah.
It's taken so long, blah, blah. Well, there are reasons, financial reasons, that people try to, you don't want to have the equipment come in 2 and 3 times in 1 year when they can only come in once.
I'll tell you, that was a
So
real
that's
nightmare.
part of it.
There's a lot of people who don't understand or know that a certain road is a county road.
Yes.
And they'll come to the city and they'll ask for it to be repaved. Is there a way that they can check with the county to find out who do I go to and try and get it fixed?
Well, the city should know what roads are county or local, obviously, and that someone goes to the city hall or to a council member, they can find out and point them to the county legislator, or even to the county planning department, or the city's planning department can contact the county planning department if there's an issue. Sometimes it's quicker to do it that way than go through a legislator or elected person. It's the staff are the professionals. They're the ones who are doing the job. You should let them communicate. And that's what happens.
You guys got that, right? Go to City Hall and they'll tell you whose street it is, so we can.
I can tell you in Peekskill, the county roads, as I mentioned, was North Division Street, a section of Main Street, Washington Street, Welcher Avenue, and Louisa Street are all county.
And Main Street also.
And everything else is the cities.
Everything else is the same. Well, the state starts in certain areas too, but that's farther out. But yeah, the state gets involved too in certain places.
So we're going to get a little greedy. What else is there, John?
Well, I mean, the big issue that we are dealing with, obviously, is the closure of Indian Point, which is a very, very important issue, and everyone's concerned about it. So there's 2 task forces I'm on. One that Linda Puglisi, the supervisor of Cortlandt, put together, the local task force. But then there's one that the governor put together, that's the state task force, where we get into the real meat and potatoes of everything. And we're working on the decommissioning planning and the reuse. And obviously the big thing for Cortlandt and the school district, Henrik Hudson, is the tremendous loss of revenue. $32 million at least, minimal. Not to mention all the local organizations, all the non-for-profits that get donations from Entergy. The library in Montrose, the fire department in Verplank and other places. So it's ripple effects that are very, very disturbing that we have to work through.
So just that the people know, is there a contract that Entergy signed to a certain sunset date? Or once they close the plant, they're walking away from it and the tax base drops at that point?
Well, there's a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes on the property. And once the plant is completely shut down, obviously it's still there, but it's not in operation. The amount of payment goes down.
Okay.
And over time, it slowly goes down to a point. And that's the part we're concerned about. Because even though the plant is not in operation, spent fuel rods are going to be remaining on the property. And we all heard about the Yucca Mountain plan, the federal plan, and that has not taken place. So everything has to stay in dry casks on site, which complicates matters in terms. And we believe unanimously on the task force that should incur a very substantial tax for. It's not empty land anymore. It still has significant danger to it. We can't reuse the property because of those casks and because of the decommissioning process, which takes decades to complete. So we're kind of
say over 100 years, that property really will be.
Well, I don't think it'll be that long, but it all depends on what the decommissioning plan is. It can go anywhere from 20 years up to 60 years, depending on the process that is selected. The feeling is, based on what we've heard so far, it'll probably take about 15 to 20 years before it's all cleaned up. But the question is, when does it start?
And they're still going to have staff on there.
Well, they're going to have security because of the dry casks. And depending on how the decommissioning is done, if it's going to be a local crew, because it's a specialty job to decommission a nuclear plant, or as they're going to do, hopefully, I think the plan that Entergy's doing in Vermont for another plant they have that's been closed is to hire a special company to come in. That has not been approved yet. I just read about it actually today, that it still has not been completely approved. So we don't know where the decommissioning process is going to go, but the final rods that are in the final use of the plant have to be cooled before they can be put into the tank. And that's a 10-year process, 8 to 10 years. So the decommissioning can't even start until all those used spent fuel is in the casks, and that's 8 to 10 years.
Well, I gotta say one thing, John. I'm happy you work with us. I really am, because that sounds enormous. Both projects are like.
Now, does that affect our electrical rates? How much we pay?
Well, we don't know. As there's two sides to that issue. There is a plan. The governor's group have given their selection of replacement power for when that power plant goes completely silent. There's a couple new plants being built not too far from here, natural gas plants, CPV plant up in Wawanda, New York, and there's another one that one of them's close to being online and one is in process. That is two of the main replacement power, but there's others. So that will play into it. Others are saying you don't need any of these plants. There's enough energy in the grid, which I don't happen to agree with, but that's fine. We can discuss it as time goes on. And
I know there's times when we lose, when the plant shuts down, or they shut one down, we get some of the power we buy from Niagara Falls. So that'll be great.
Some of it comes from, through the grid from different places. And the feeling is, and the theory is, as more and more people put solar panels on their homes as individual homeowners, the load goes down. So that plays into it over time. So it's hard to say right now where we're going to end up. But it is a concern because 2021 is the date.
Wow.
And there is a provision for two-year extensions. So
Great.
See where we are.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, what's happening in White Plains? By the way, John, is there a number or an email where people, if they have questions about county government, they can reach you?
Well, they can send it to me, jgtesta@verizon.net, or they can call me at my office, 914-995-2828, and you can get me directly in my office.
Great.
Any questions for John? What do you think? Let us know.
Thank you.
So, our third segment, we're going to talk about Peekskill and what's going on around Peekskill. We do scrub the social media and we look at city council meetings for some of the issues that are important to people. One of the things coming up very quickly is the opening of the new Firehouse. That's due to be opened. I think the projection is sometime in September. Still a lot of work to be done there, but I guess one of the questions that came about, and it's come up over several months, is what to do with the firehouses once the new firehouse, the old firehouses, once the new firehouse is open. We've had some discussion about that. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I know in the beginning when I was on the council, we were talking about basically, getting rid of most of them and keep the one on Washington Street because we felt that was an important area to cover, just south side of the city. So we wanted to keep that in service, and I thought that was very important to have, a fire truck down there. But also, some of these buildings are in really bad shape. You'd have to put a lot of money into them. And that's why we wanted to get them on a tax roll. You sell them, you start getting some taxes for them, have somebody fix them up, make them look nice. But from what I'm understanding, they want to make them into youth bureaus. And, that's all well and good, but you also have to have money. And it takes you money to heat it, and then you don't have anything on your tax rolls. And the city's like a business. You have to be able to make money to support these things. And the only way you can do that is by raising taxes or by finding money somewhere else. So, it could be a problem, I think. And you have to be smart on how you use these places. And I think the best bet is really to sell them, because I know some of the conditions of these buildings are not really that great. That's why everybody's moving out of them, because they were in need of so much work that we didn't want to keep them, and we decided to build a central firehouse.
One of the discussions that came up, I think, during the AIM presentation, I think it was Lee Lanza mentioned, that he had some discussion with the mayor about converting the Broad Street Firehouse
into a culinary
school for kids. If you're going to convert some of these buildings for the benefit of the youth, there's the building that's right, talking about youth, the high school there, the middle school, lots of schools and stuff. But again, the utility of those buildings would have to be assessed. But I think right now, and I think we talked a little bit off camera, when you have a municipality or a county or a not-for-profit or whatever owning property, it's off the tax rolls.
Thanks, everybody.
And right now, you got those 4 buildings that are off the tax rolls. And, our mission, I think the mission is to expand the tax base.
Well, that's what you want to do. I mean, you need to find a way to make money. And it's like anything else. If the city has a way of, you want to keep your taxpayers happy. You want to make it a nice place to live. You want to make it affordable here. So you have to find ways to keep both sides happy. Where you do a youth bureau, you have events for kids, but also, you want to keep your tax base low and make it a place where people want to come here and live. And then, you have all these things around the city that make it attractive. Now, the former mayor, what do you think?
You're also a taxpayer too, so.
Well, first of all, let me just say, driving past the new firehouse, it looks very nice.
Beautiful.
It looks like they're using really nice materials in it. And
Unbelievable. It came out beautiful.
I look forward to visiting it once it opens, and I wish the fire company, both career and volunteer, all the best. They're there for us, and they deserve quality and safety for themselves, so I'll put that out first. Secondly, if I recall, and all of this happened after I left, even though we did have a firehouse design, not for the location it's in now while I was in as mayor, but it changed to the location it's at today. So I remember reading that the firehouses that were going to be then closed up were going to be sold to make up funding for building the new firehouse.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, as an elected person responsible for people, my thought as I'm listening to you say what was happening, it's fine to use these firehouses for other purposes if you don't want to sell them, which means, again, as you said, you don't get the revenue. But then you have the maintenance of the building. If the building was not in good enough shape for the firehouse, how is it in good enough shape for children or anybody else?
I agree with that, sure.
So that's one. So you have the expense of repairing the buildings that you didn't want to have, which is why you're building the firehouse. That doesn't make sense to me. Second of all, you have more staff you have to hire. If you're going to have 4 more new locations that are going to have people in it, you have to have staff there, which means you have higher insurance as well. So all these things play in. Maybe they have the money to do it, and that's what they want to do, and that's their decision. They're the ones who are sitting there making those decisions. But those are the things that would be in my mind as I sat there thinking about it.
Well, John,
as a layperson, I don't think this was thought through that much as to how much it was going to cost to maintain these other firehouses?
Well, I think the idea was floated. In all fairness, it's you can't get anywhere unless you dream and you talk about it. But you do have to think it through. It's not something you can just say, hey, it's all for the kids. There's money behind this, and you got and the Youth Bureau building itself, near City Hall. That's a big old building,
Sure.
And if you're going to spend all kinds of money, that needs certainly some work and refurbishing. They spent a lot of money on the Kiley Center. A lot of us contributed, but so these you get a sense of the dollars that it takes, and you also have to get a sense of what's the amount of kids you're really servicing. Is it really worth it?
How many kids you're going to have?
Yeah. So
can you fill the buildings?
But John, you mentioned it's getting to be budget time in the county.
Yeah.
It's getting to be budget time in the city, and the city council meeting last night, the comptroller was saying that the department heads are getting together. They got to get out their budget requests. You're a former mayor, of course. A couple of years ago, what was it like at this time of year? What are you looking for in trying to put together your budget? And what input, by the way, does the mayor have?
Well, the mayor is the person who drives the train in terms of what people see, what people, the focus of what the city should be going. The city manager is there, but the city manager is only there to fulfill the will of the council and the policy of the council. The city manager is not there to make policy or tell the council what they're going to do. It's the other way around. But the city manager's job, one of the main jobs of the city manager and the city controller is to put together a budget. The council will receive that budget, and then it eventually will become the council's budget. But right now, the city manager, as you mentioned, probably this meeting, all the department heads are now coming in, giving their assessment of how things went this year based on what the budget projections were, and the city manager is telling them what he needs to see for the budget coming up. And so that's in the early stages of development for the budget. So the mayor is probably hearing some of these things and waiting to get a clearer picture, and the council as a whole should get a clear picture of what things are. But it's okay to say you want this and you want that. Yeah. And brainstorming is all part of government, and people shouldn't be held accountable for throwing out ideas, as you mentioned, because sometimes an idea just comes off the top of your head, but you have to dig into what it costs.
And it's pretty simple, basically. Suppose you have your budget's $100 for the year, and you have to manage that $100 for the whole year. And once you start going outside of that, then you start, then you're going into your fund balance to try to pull money away from there to try to support that budget. And once you do that, it's not a good road to go down to. You've seen years ago, a few years before we got in, what happened that the city was in financial trouble. We were close to being taken over by the state. So we don't want to go down that road again.
Well, there's other factors that would be on your control, like sales tax
revenue.
That's
it. Sales tax, correct.
Mortgage tax revenue. These are the things, I don't know what they are for the city, but these are all the things that come into play.
In all reality, and a lot of people when we had that issue last time before we got into office, everybody says, well, this came up. But a good business person or someone that's in business, they all make adjustments. So when they see these things coming down the road, they start adjusting for it to make sure that they're not going to be in trouble when it comes. I mean, I made adjustments. I own a business, and I saw it coming, and I stopped all spending.
Fuel costs.
To start doing things to make sure that as we were going into the recession, that I can handle it, and I survived it. Just like all these other businesses. So as a city, it's a business, and when you see something bad coming down the road, you have to make adjustments for it. If you don't do that, you're going to be in trouble.
Well, I think the comptroller last night in her remarks was going through a second quarter update to the council. And she mentioned the exact words that sort of, as a taxpayer, you say, well, the big numbers haven't hit yet. You say, okay. And I'm sure that's accounted for in the budget, but stuff happens. You're halfway through the year and you get a major storm, or and some of these numbers, the police overtime and fire overtime and all that. And she mentioned, I think, spending over revenue right now is about $179,000
operating budget.
Operating budget.
June?
As of
we're 6 months in and we're ready to operate.
So
it's not a good
So that's for the first 6 months? So you basically double the rest of the year?
That's what she's doing. She's letting you know. She's giving me a report on half of the year to say this is what's going on. I'm letting you know we're ready in an operating deficit.
But sometimes these things are exponential too. When you're talking about in terms of a budget, like the police overtime, I Well, here comes Lincoln. You have a $400,000 police overtime budget. You're already $260,000 into that for the year. Okay, well, we're halfway through. We're getting there. But a major storm, major emergencies, those police overtime numbers go through the roof. So it's a juggling act, and you don't have any people sitting in that chair.
So just let me just clarify something for people watching at home. If we have 179,000
Operating loss.
Okay, and you go over budget, where's the money going to come from? Because you just mentioned
Usually
that $100, you have to go to another source.
You're going to have to go to
Where's
your
that
fund
money come
balance
from?
to make up some of the difference.
Where?
Your fund balance.
Your fund balance.
Sure.
How do you raise taxes?
Undesignated. So it's it's like a savings basically.
Okay.
So when you have to make an adjustment like that, and other things start coming in more,
Right.
and you really got to start digging into other places. Or like if like when you get a fire truck or something like that, you have to have someone that knows how to go for a bond and try to get that truck for you as cheap as you can. Get a bond for you from somebody.
Like now a garbage truck.
Yeah, like a garbage truck or something like that. I mean, there's people out there that know how to do that. We kind of been staying away from. When we were there, I think bonds are the best way to get things, to help you get things that you need, and doesn't really tax you on your taxpayer. So.
Yeah, but if your fund balance is not great, you gotta pay more for it.
You have to have 10%. The laws, and you would know this, John. You have to have 10% of your budget is your fund balance. That they look at you financially stable to say that's.
The rating company,
Yeah, the rating
agencies look at certain things and.
Moody's and things like that.
Well, look,
That stuff, so.
at this time, it's the summer. The city manager and the department heads are working on it, and we'll find out at the other end once that budget is presented in
Got a lot of
October
work to do.
where we sit.
Hope they're working out. That's all.
What do you think? Let us know on Facebook or on YouTube. Thanks.
Up and About with Peekskill United will be featuring a new segment called The Business Corner. And we'll be featuring on this segment, PK Blendz Juice Bar, located on Main Street at the corner of North Division. Take a look at this. It's the first day of summer, and Up and About with Peekskill United is going to celebrate it here at PK Blendz Juice Bar, located on Main Street at the corner of North Division Street. It is a trendy establishment in Peekskill, and it specializes in smoothies and energy type drinks. Everything here is made from scratch. Let's go in and talk to Rob Scott, the proprietor.
I wanted to create something that was multicultural, something that was progressive and educational. So I had a lot of different ideas, different direction, apps, after school programs, different things of that nature. But juicing was something that changed my life, and changed my family's lives. 10 years ago, I used to have really bad headaches, really, really bad headaches. I went to the doctors. They hit you with the, oh, that's peculiar, that's weird. Every time you eat, and it was always around every time I ate. And, they wanted to scan my brain and, give me all these pills to, to hide the pain. But no one would ever really get down to the root or could tell me why. There was someone I used to follow on YouTube. He was like a holistic practitioner. And he happened to be in New York at the time, so I went down to Brooklyn to see him, and I told him, I said, hey, I'm having these really bad headaches, what could be going on? So he told me, stop eating meat,
Okay.
And this is 10 years ago. I'm like, nah, I think it might be a little bit more than that, because it's really bad, because I was young in the game, I didn't really understand the food and health and how it relates. But he said, nah, man, stop eating meat, man. Stop eating meat.
And I know you use everything fresh and you blend it together, but I always wondered how you knew what to put into those juices in order to make it work. I've had your Energizer, it's great. So tell me about that.
Yeah, believe it or not, even on a molecular level, when things don't, certain things that just go together, like peanut butter and jelly or cinnamon, banana, certain things, those things have an affinity for each other. So, just as something that's a poisonous or something that doesn't smell good, it's actually, if you would look at it under a petri dish, you would see that these things are having conflict with each other. So, I mean, for one, I mean, obviously it's years of research and learning about different fruits and vegetables and finding out what minerals and enzymes that are a part of it. But definitely it has to taste good, you know? And usually when it tastes good, that means it is good.
You know, Rob, I really, before I'm finished with this interview, I want to take something out of here because the first day of summer, I want to feel it.
You got to.
What do you suggest?
I would say, you know, it's the summer, we want to get that energy up. How about the Energizer? What you think?
You know what? I think I can go for that because I like ginger and I like the apples and the carrots. So yeah, I think that'll work.
All right, let's
but
get
I'm going to need a large, okay?
Okay, no problem, no problem. We got you, we got you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we're go out there and enjoy the summer months?
Well, you know, fresh juice, vegan eats, good vibes is our mantra. Come check us out. We're at 1002 Main Street, Peekskill, New York.
Good. Thank you very much.
All right.
It was great.
Yes, thanks. Peace.
Well, it was a really good experience going to that juice bar. And I really thank Robert Scott for letting us come into his location and make it a great drink. It was the first day of summer. We really enjoyed it. And actually, I suggest that everybody go there.
That looked really good, Bruce. Did it taste good?
Yeah. It was awesome.
That tastes good. Good luck to him. And I'll be stopping by, definitely.
Up and About with Peekskill United celebrated the 4th of July in downtown Peekskill. Once again, a great celebration, an awesome day parade, and a lot of really good people. We had a good time down there, and I think the parade spoke for itself in that it was colorful. We had the pipe bands, and the people came out in force. It was just a great time. Take a look at what we saw.
Up and About with Peekskill United is here at Peekskill's Independence Day Parade, which starts off the celebration right down in Peekskill, New York. From here, they're going to be going up to Depew Park to have further celebrations. And then it's down to the majestic waterfront, in which they will have activities, festivities, and also a concert. And once it becomes dark out, the mountains will come alive with fireworks, and the celebration will certainly be beginning. So stick around with us and enjoy as we cover the 242nd celebration of America. Sonia,
Yes.
glad to meet you, and
Hi,
welcome
nice
to
to meet you.
welcome to the parade down here in Peekskill.
Yep.
What do you think of this parade today?
I love the 4th of July parade, especially the bagpipes. I love everything about the 4th of July, fireworks and everything.
Very festive, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So what are you going to do today to celebrate?
Well, we're probably going to go down to the Peekskill Motor Inn and watch the fireworks, and maybe after that have a couple of drinks.
Good. Hey, that's festive enough.
Yeah.
What's doing? Hey. How are you? Come on, me, 1 second. How you enjoying today?
We're having a great time.
Let me have one.
Sure, here you go.
And what are you doing for the rest of the day?
I don't have plans yet. We're gonna go and socialize with some people in town, having parties, and we're watching the fireworks.
So to end our show tonight, I want to give a shout out to one of the most prominent residents of Peekskill. and that's Dave Engel, a former firefighter and now retired. But he suffered a massive injury, namely a heart attack, a couple of weeks ago. And he recently got in contact with me and told me he was in rehab, and I'm happy to hear this. So, Dave, get healthy real quick.
A couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Father's Day. So happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there in Peekskill.
We hope we see you down here at the Lincoln Depot Museum soon. Come down to see the exhibits or come to one of our events.
I'd like to thank all the firefighters that put on the city parade and also the fireworks. They put a lot of effort into it, and we do appreciate every year that they do the hard work. So thank you and God bless them.
Having just celebrated the 4th of July, I just want to thank all the servicemen and women throughout the world who are making sure that we have many, many more 4th of Julys to come. Thank you and good night from Up and About with Peekskill United.